All right, we're live.
What?
Happy Halloween.
This is scary.
It is kind of scary, but you know, for Halloween, we'll go a little non-traditional, and we should have something spooky. So why not a CIA?
Hey, I like that, Hunley. The woman who is Barbara Farrar, who is our non-doctor LA County medical examiner, or medical, whatever she is, nobody really knows. She's the COVID lady. She has very little COVID to talk about. So she issued a warning that the children of LA County for Halloween should not play with live bats, as they could give them rabies. Like there's bats flying around LA.
At least you didn't say the 5-letter C word that is out of China.
Oh, yeah. No, she didn't say it.
It's not a wet market in China.
No. Everyone's going like, what is she talking about bats? Now these kids are totally spooked. The parents, no, dude. The parents are freaking out. They don't know why she mentioned bats. Nobody's ever seen a bat. And so last night we watched the Batman, the Christopher Nolan Batman one with everybody in it, just for the sake of bats. I hadn't seen that one in a long time. The Dark Knight.
Okay, with Heath Ledger.
No, not Heath Ledger. This is the one with Gary Oldman and.
The first one.
No, there's like the third one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's everyone. Cool. Yeah, Gotham is taken over by Thomas Hardy in a mask, who never takes his mask off. He's a German villain. I don't know if you remember this one. Everybody's in it.
Said they can't hear him.
Gordon Levitt is in it.
Nobody can hear what he's saying, but yeah, I'm very proud of my thumbnail because I think he looks, kind of scared.
Oh wow, you're right. Look at him. He looks. All right, why don't we discuss how the hell we got this far? How did we get here? How did we get here, Hunley? Because this is where we are. Where we are. I'll just back up for a second. In 2018, when she married Bobby Kennedy III, I was repulsed and shocked at the same time. This is way before the show ever existed. This thing, when she married him as a CIA agent, I remember like my head almost came off the top of my shoulders. And he, RFK Jr., said, quote, he was over the moon that his daughter married, that his son married Amaryllis Fox.
Not only over the moon, but they're going to have a clam bake after.
Oh, I don't remember the clam bake, but
holy! That's what he said in the releases that I saw on that.
It says clam bake.
Well, because he said, like I had with Cheryl, we're going to have a clam bake.
Man, this is some nutty family. I got to tell you right now. Look, I don't begrudge the guy. I kind of like the guy. Like I've said, the only beef I have with him is that he should run in 2028. Stop trying to interfere with Trump v. Biden, the only two people in this binary race. Stop trying to be a spoiler. I don't know if he's in on this thing with her. I don't know if he's in on it with the deep state. I don't know if it's his ego. In a clear slate, in 2028, I would give him serious consideration. I do not dislike the guy. Like I said, I did the parole hearing for Sirhan with him. We have similar views on many subjects, including some on recovery, but he goes off the rails even on that. But nevertheless, this is where we are. Now, we now know that Dennis Kucinich was fired. We now established that. The famous...
You could decipher it. You could decipher it off of her extraordinarily long tweet. Remember that tweet's supposed to be about short things. She manages to shove threads and everything. And I agree with you. I said doublespeak. You said word salad. But it is just very verbose. She said everything but he was fired. Let me see. We decided to move forward.
Oh, this is it. Yeah, go ahead. Are you reading that?
No, I'm just we decided to move on to get
right. No. He was shit canned. And I'll tell you something else. Dennis Kucinich has a lot of friends. Dennis Kucinich is a veteran politician. He's kind of like a Rand Paul kind of a guy, a progressive. Nevertheless, he was just recently running for mayor of a city in Ohio, so he's not dead politically. Ran for president twice, congressman from Ohio. A lot of friends. Not a bad choice to be a campaign manager, knows how to run a campaign, unlike her. Now, the scuttlebutt is that she was co-campaign manager for 6 months prior to this. I've never read that, never heard it. I don't know where that came from. She's never run anything except her kitchen with her children and whatever operations she ran in her book, which we're going to get into. But we wanted to say where we are, because last week we talked about Jonathan Mocht, who was arrested twice for jumping the fence at the RFK compound in Brentwood. Now, this guy is Jonathan Mocht. I wanted Eric to show Gabriel Mocht, who has to be related to him. If you got the photo of the actor, the TV actor from Billions, there it is. Yeah, put those side by side if you can.
I can't right now, but
okay. Well, can you go back and forth, or?
Yeah, we'll go back and forth. But yeah,
just go back and forth.
Similar. I wasn't sure. Actually, this is how bad it is. I went to your Twitter feed and I was like, I hope I got the right names.
Right. Okay. So Dick, so this guy's 28. Gabriel Mocht is like 52. And I think that this guy, yeah. He looks great. No doubt about it. He was in Suits and a couple other movies. I think somebody said he pointed out that he played Graham Parsons, the rock and roll star, in one of the biopics about Graham Parsons. So this guy, also raised in California and blah, 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 right around here. I think the younger one, Jonathan Mocht, may be the son of one of his siblings, one of this guy's siblings, whether a daughter, a sister, or a brother.
So it's Uncle Gabe, maybe.
I think he's Uncle Gabriel. Yes, that's my guess, until somebody could point out otherwise. Not that it matters, but I'm just pointing out something about Jonathan Mocht. He is one of the biggest real estate salesmen in Pacific Palisades, Malibu, Brentwood region. This is not a homeless guy looking for crack. He may have gone off the rails. I don't know if Hunley's messages that he talked about last week have gotten into his head where he's hearing voices. I don't know. All I know is that he, up until now, has been a very, very large real estate salesman in the coastal region of LA, Brentwood, Pacific Palisades, and into Malibu, up in that region. And maybe the Kennedys put their house on the market. He's got a secret company that does secret listings. Not that it's a secret company, but private listing company on top of his regular one. I don't know what happened to him. These assassins that somebody pointed out to me, the Gavin DeBecker organization is very sketchy, works for Jeff Bezos.
That's right. Somebody pointed that on the or X or something. That
no, there's a lot more to this security firm that goes back to Anthony Pellicano, who was jailed for a number of years for digging up dirt on Hollywood executives. There's a lot of bodies that are buried here, and I mean that politically and physically and economically in LA. And DeBecker knows where they all are. That's his security chief, and the idea that DeBecker would stage these assaults or whatever they are is not beyond belief in my world. I have no evidence of that other than speculation on my part based on DeBecker's history. But nevertheless, I watched, and this is going to be a long show, but I watched TMZ the other day because his wife was on, Cheryl Hines was on with Harvey Levin and the other guy who may be his lover. I'm not really sure what the relationship is on TMZ, but she came on the show because she was doing something live on Instagram while they were arresting Jonathan Mocht, and she was watching it out the window, according to Cheryl Hines, while she was on Instagram live. So Harvey Levin was saying, well, what did you see? And then she starts backtracking in the middle of the interview and says, well, I didn't really see it. And she goes, well, what is your opinion? She goes, I'd rather not say. And then he said, well, what's your opinion of Biden not giving your husband Secret Service protection, which is what this is all about. And of course, he should have it. But according to RFK Jr. himself, he believes that Joe Biden is bleeding him white financially by not giving him Secret Service protection, that it's just hardball politics, which is probably true. So Cheryl Hines comes on TMZ. She starts stammering. She sounds like, is this
Gavin?
Oh, that's Gavin DeBecker. Yeah. So she comes on with Harvey Levin and she starts stammering about the incident, and she didn't see it. She saw it. Like, she couldn't give any details, right? At first, she saw it out the window. And then she started to get sketchy and started blathering on about some crap. So she then says her whole point of being on air was to push for the idea that he should have Secret Service protection. RFK Jr. himself saying that this is costing him $200,000 to $300,000 a month in campaign money that he's using for security to Gavin DeBecker, who now apparently has donated $4 to $5 million to some RFK super PAC. So I don't know what's going on with this circular money in that RFK campaign. But as we pointed out last week, there's Cheryl Hines with him. Of course, he's got the two other wives. Now, Bobby Kennedy III is the son of the first wife, Eric. It gets a little confusing as to how many wives. This is the first wife. That's the mother of Bobby Kennedy III, who is married to Amaryllis Fox now and has Bobcat and this other baby with, I think, just maybe one or two. Maybe Zoe. No, Zoe's from the other wife.
Yeah, that's the three of them. Him,
that's the three of them, right?
And her.
Okay. Everybody's got to pay attention now because it's going to get pretty convoluted here. That's why, Eric, we are interrupting the part 2 of the William Donovan OSS episode, which will air next Tuesday. So if you're into OSS and how we got to...
Hey, it's spies.
Yeah, no. I'm saying how we got to Amaryllis Fox and the CIA. The precursor is going to be next, part 2 of that is going to be next week. So dig. Okay, so who is this Amaryllis Fox? CIA operative for 8 years. What she did is sketchy. She wrote this book. I read the entire book, so you don't have to. And I've watched everything she's done on TV, so you don't have to. Okay, there's a lot of stuff she's done, and I just want to get into her family before we start. So the dad, I don't know if you have a picture of the dad, but the dad is named Hudson. What's that?
I do.
Oh, okay. The dad is named, these CIA people have the greatest names you've ever heard of in your life. His name is Hudson Thornburg. Dig this cat. He's right out of a Bond movie. This is the American dad. Where does he live? All over the world. What does he do? He's an economics advisor to third world countries, lives in the Soviet Union for many years. The family lives with him. She goes back and forth to the Soviet Union. He's advising the Soviet government upon the collapse of the Soviet Union, Eric. That's where he comes in. Deep State Dave here comes in.
He might have another term that he could be called. I have a feeling.
What?
Economic hitman.
Well, no. He's part of the deep state. He's not a freelance guy like the economic hitman thing is. He's coming in as part of the deep state, and he was involved when Gorbachev was on the way out. He's representing us. This is not a guy representing separate corporate interests. I want to make that clear. This guy Thornburg is a deep state operative. He comes out of the University of Chicago. He's an economics guy because he ends up going into Margaret Thatcher's situation as an advisor later on. Also, he's all over the world, and she claims she lives all over the world because her father keeps having to go and get involved with governments economically as an advisor. Now, what person goes from country to country to country as an advisor to governments? Clearly not a private equity guy. This is a guy with government access by governments to governments. So the dad, Hudson Thornburg, is married to Lalage Damarel. And you go, well, what kind of name is that, Mark? Well, she's British. She's married to the parents of Amaryllis Fox are Damerel, Damerell. Her mother's name is Lalage, a British actress who has no credits that I could possibly find.
I couldn't find anything.
I couldn't find any credits for the mother. The mother is completely spooky, and the mother is a deep state operative of the British Royals, not the Royals, the British deep state. Why do we know that? Her father, who's Amaryllis Fox's grandfather on the British side, was a governor of the Raj government of India when the British ran India. He's part of the deep state of Britain, UK, running the colony of India. That's how deep the family goes. In
What
fact,
was it they said in the book that they said something like he was a wandering Raj, or just she downplayed it in the book. It was a weird term, but I was like, wait, Raj? Did I just hear that correctly? He was a Raj, but she kind of said it like it was just like a, just a rambling Raj or some cute term. That's mom now.
That's mom now on the left. Now she will eventually marry Steve Rails, who's there on the right. Now this guy is really interesting. I don't want to get into Steve Rails yet.
No, I know. I just needed a shot.
But that's
of her.
a picture of the mother. That
Yeah.
the father, Hudson Thornburg, eventually marries his interpreter, his Russian interpreter. Okay, and the family breaks up. Amaryllis really goes with the mom who she worships. The dad's a little sketchy, but at the age of 8, this is how far back this goes. She's raised in D.C. and she will go to school in England in a little while. She'll go to, Oxford. But at the age of 8, she claims that she has a friend who's killed in is that her at 8 or?
No, that's Laura Abigail Owens.
Okay, so Laura Abigail Owens at the age of 8 is killed in the Lockerbie, Scotland bombing, right? So that's the Owens family. Okay, so they're all killed. They're from Cherry Hill, New Jersey. So we don't know about the veracity of Amaryllis Fox's statements in the book that this was her best friend, and the killing of her set her into a study of terrorism at the age of 8.
Well, they like to play in the closet together where they were locked overnight. I remember that.
Okay, but the question is this. This is a family from Cherry Hill, New Jersey, this family here.
Yeah.
The Foxes live in D.C. She goes to private school in D.C. at the age of 8. I don't know where she's interacting with this girl from Cherry Hill, New Jersey. So there's that. So anyway, so she claims, Amaryllis Fox, because of the Lockerbie, Scotland bombing and the loss of Laura, she begins to investigate terrorism at the age of 8, if you can follow this.
Her dad told her, read the papers and keep up. Get all those international papers at 8. Yes.
So at the age of 8, she begins to become a CIA preteen agent, right? She begins to read the newspapers and study this. Now you say to yourself, well, that's kind of interesting. Because when she writes the book years later, we're going to get into who her attorney was to clear that book with the CIA. So the situation becomes that in 1999, she, at the age of 18, keep this in mind, on her own, she somehow takes her prom money for her prom dress and buys a ticket to go to Burma, right? Why does she go to Burma? Because she has to interview this woman who's under house arrest. That is
Aung San Suu Kyi.
Aung San Suu Kyi, who was the leader of Burma, now became Myanmar. And the reason the British have such a hard-on for this is they used to own Burma. They gave up Burma to the Chinese, or indirectly China's on the border. And the influence of China in Burma is enormous, Myanmar. So what do they have there? They've got a military dictatorship that comes and goes. So this is her with a guy. She gets in there with a Burmese anti-government reporter who brings her in to interview the leader in her house for the BBC. Deep State, this is a picture of her interviewing this leader. There's her video camera on the bottom. She somehow gets behind enemy lines in Burma to interview this woman who will win the Nobel Prize, who recently was convicted of insurrection and trying to overthrow the government of Burma, and maybe sentenced to 100 years. Also, that her security guards had illegal walkie-talkies and some other Trump-like voter charges. I swear to God, Eric, very Trumpian charges of insurrection against her. No trial, it was all private, and they don't know if she's going to remain on house arrest. This is just about this woman in Burma.
But very, very interesting, because she went through a whole lot of detail about how she smuggled film out, although that looks like a video camera.
Right.
So I guess there was actually a film camera going at the same time.
Yeah.
That she took very special care to smuggle out in a very hidden place. as well as
Oh,
having other
oh yeah,
decoy film that
yeah.
was to be caught. But I just noticed a video camera, so I'm not sure if there was also video or maybe there's just more to the story.
Okay, what Erica is referring to is film that she rolled up inside of a pen and stuck inside of her body. That I think we could say that,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Oh,
yes,
okay,
yes,
is that what you're?
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. All right. So the whole story is insane. She works for no one. She's 18. She's not with the CIA. This is when she's 18 years of age. Why she did this is because her parents, her mother, is deep state in Britain, and the BBC is obviously part of that operation. When she goes to Oxford, she will be asked by MI6 to join MI6. She claims she turns that down for MI6. This is before the CIA, before she goes to Georgetown, Eric. She's
Yeah, I
asked.
remember. She didn't know if it was. We're assuming it was them, but she said some organization was talking to her, and some professor like came up and was like, "Oh, let's have lunch. Hey, do you believe in this? Do you believe in that?" And she was like, "No, I don't."
Yeah. Anyway, so somehow she ends up for the BBC doing this undercover operation. So I think the proof might be in the pudding.
Oh,
but
yeah, CNN too later.
yeah. But again, this is the campaign manager of RFK Jr. People. This is not some rando person. So, okay. So she does this thing in 1999, and you just go, all right, well, who knows what's going to happen to her, right? So when she goes to Georgetown, which is where the spooks learn to mingle, is Georgetown School of Foreign Service. That's the training camp for CIA spook operatives, by the way. She is asked to meet with the CIA director on campus. Of course, they have a CIA recruiter there, as everybody knows. I forget the guy's name, but his name's in the book. And he goes to her and says, "What are you up to?" She says, "Well, I'm creating an algorithm, of terrorism and how they would maybe a mathematical, like an AI algorithm of where the next bombing would be based on." This is so crazy, based on where hookah stores are or where. Remember, the whole thing was
the rate that guards are paid at this time and the economy.
Right.
I'm like, okay.
So her professor, who at the time said he doesn't recall this algorithm at all, and that was her professor at Georgetown. He says he doesn't recall this nutty algorithm, but she says it's her entree into the CIA. That's why they hire her at the age of 22. Now, what happens before the age of 22? She goes back home from England to DC, and 9/11 happens. All through the book, she tries to link herself. This is what they do in all their books. They try to link themselves to events that are historic events, but they're just links. They're just like little hooks. And I've seen this in other memoirs. And you just go, well, how many female memoirs could there be, Mark, from CIA operatives? How many could there be? I mean,
multiple. I've entered to be.
Okay, no. Hold on. Let me just give you the list. Let me just give you the partial list. It's the past couple of years of CIA memoirs by female CIA operatives: Tracy Walder, Johanna Mendez, Michelle Rigby Assad, Melissa Male, Lindsay Morahan, Susan Carnico, Catherine McCord, Katie McQuaid, Nada Bakos, and of course the mother of all, Valerie Plame. That is just a recent list of people who have published memoirs as female operatives of the CIA. And this is yet another one, because I contend that these are not memoirs at all. These are attempts to be promotional devices to draw more women into the CIA. And I sent Eric a couple of commercials. They all seem to be storylines in these commercials of women joining the CIA. And right now, a woman is in charge of the CIA. She will say, Amaryllis Fox will say, the CIA is completely, this is her in the book, saying the CIA is not completely run and operated by women. Just so everybody knows why they have screwed up so much stuff in the past number of years. Keep in mind, this is an all-women organization, folks. And whatever that means to you, she was in there at the age of 22, running missions in Iraq. Think about what I'm saying here. There were, and the reason it's important because of the William Donovan episodes, which was sandwiching, is because Donovan told FDR he wanted men and women between the ages of 35 and 45 to operate for him for the OSS, not 21, 22-year-olds. And there's a reason for that. And it's about stability, and it's about maturity, and it's a bunch of other stuff that's obvious, but not to the women of the CIA, which may be a new category for us, Eric. This woman at 22, joins the CIA, but backtrack 2 minutes to 9/11. 9/11 happened. She claims to be in D.C. She was in school in Oxford. She claims to be home for the weekend, and she gets her 2 kid sisters who are in school in their uniform with her mother and says, we got to get out of here. Where do they go? They just drive where you live, and they go to a Denny's, right? So they're going to ride out this attack at Denny's because that's where you go for the Grand Slam.
Where did her brother go? That was something I noticed. Is her brother vanished. It was like he went to boarding school and never appeared again.
Right. The sister's doing some other sketchy stuff now. But back then, she gets the 2 kids and the mom, and they go to Denny's, right? So they go home, and her girlfriend, you can't make this up, her and her girlfriend decide to drive to Ground Zero. So they get in the car from D.C. This is the next day after 9/11, driving to Ground Zero. And they go through the Holland Tunnel, and they go to Ground Zero, where she describes.
Forget their toll, but no worries.
Hold on. They go to 9/11 Ground Zero, and she's describing in the book how she sees all this stuff at Ground Zero, how horrific it is, and the posters and everything else. The problem is the Holland Tunnel was closed, and she's a liar.
Oh,
thank you. That's why I do what I do. She's a freaking liar. And in that book, there are multiple lies, but that's one of the better ones. She says she talked to the attendant at the toll booth, and she waved her through after they were all crying. There was nobody there because nobody was getting through. And that's the reality. Those tunnels.
I was wondering about that. How else we got there, but damn it, I didn't know that.
But you're not a New Yorker. That's the difference. We knew those tunnels were closed. We knew the bridges were closed, but she didn't. And whoever vetted that book didn't freaking know. And that's one of the lies that I catch her in the book. There are other lies, but that's one of the better ones, that she drove right through the Holland Tunnel the next day on 9/12, I guess, the next day. Anyway, so she gets there and she futzes around, and she realizes this is why she has to join the CIA. That's why it's important. So the book itself is so vague. There's no operations. There's no nothing. And she does her stuff where she now goes to the farm near Eric's house where Hinckley lives, and right near the farm, Williamsburg, Virginia. She trains at the farm, and it sounds legit. I don't know. I wrote a whole screenplay about it called The Farm. Maybe she knows more, read my screenplay, for Christ's sakes. I don't know.
I don't know. One thing I did notice about her time at the farm, and this is going to come up, I even have a picture for it later, is she was the perfect student, perfect everything. Like, what was it? She did her whole routine to go up to the guy to find the information from him, and then the guy just didn't even bother finish. He just like, oh, that's such a brilliant way you came up on me, and then he took the form and where it said satisfactory and all down the line, he just did a line straight down, all sats, and then she met with the other people. Now, they all got through, but they had some unsats. There's a little nickname for that, but not her. Hers, she was perfect student.
Well, you can watch my. There's some remnants of my my script still remaining in The Recruit with Colin Farrell now. But if you want to see a movie about the farm, you can take a look at that movie, which I was the original writer on. But getting back to her, she goes to the farm. She trains at the farm, and instead of putting her into an office. She's 22 years old. She's put into the field, according to her. And what does she put into the field to do? She's given non-official cover, knock. She becomes a knock agent. Knock agents are the top breed of agents because you really have to have skill. You can't survive. You're on your own, right? So knock agents, non-official cover, as opposed to official cover, which would mean you were a secretary in an embassy, Eric, a U.S. embassy, let's say in Kabul, right? Okay, that's who, right?
Normal assignment. Yeah. Embassy stuff.
Right. Okay. So she's given non-official cover, which means she's got to pick out her own cover. What does she pick out for a cover? She says, well, my family's been in the art business. She knows art history. We all have art history degrees. So I'm going to be an art dealer and I'm going to hook up with this guy named Fox, Dean Fox. Now, what does Dean Fox do? Dean Fox is another operative. And if you saw our episodes on the CIA, what I've said for years is in the old days, it was National Geographic was a old school cover for a CIA back in the day. Why National Geographic? Well, they go around the world, they take pictures of animals, you know, they do things. What does this guy Dean Fox do? He's a photographer for National Geographic. That's his cover. That becomes her husband. They have a baby. They're sent to China and Shanghai. What are they doing in Shanghai? Nothing. They can't do anything in Shanghai. Why can't they do anything? The whole house is wired.
Well, this is her second husband, by the way.
Right. The first husband is British. The first husband is British. That's annulled. We don't even know what happened to that guy.
No, and he's hidden his name.
Yeah. That is is that the art or the guy?
That's Dean Fox.
So, and there's the art in the background. So Dean Fox and her become a couple. They get married, actually. And it's kind of like an arranged marriage. This is a guy that on weekends for years, she doesn't even know him. When he's back in DC, they have sex anytime they're free. She doesn't even know the guy, but he would come back from Iraq, come over, have sex with her, and then go back to Iraq. And that was the extent of their relationship. She says it's purely sexual. She didn't really know the guy. So they put together this arranged marriage, which they go to Shanghai. Now in Shanghai, they're living in an apartment and the CIA tells her, you know, they would watch anybody. They don't care that it's CIA, Eric. They're going to watch anybody.
Sure.
So she's got a KCIA maid or whatever the secret police is of the Communist Party. The maid is whatever. The maid's watching them. They got film there. They got the places wired. So they don't do anything. There's no mission. There's nothing going on. They're just living in this apartment in Shanghai. So she gets pregnant with this daughter, Zoe, and that becomes her baby when Zoe gets born. This is her life, but there's no real mission in the book. Nothing really happens. She claims repeatedly throughout the book that she's on these vague missions, saving the world from being blown to smithereens, that she's constantly hunting dirty bombs. And wherever her encounters are, they're about dealing with and tracing fissile nuclear material and the making of dirty bombs around the world. Many CIA people have come out and said, this is not me. This is them saying that she's making this up. Okay, this is not me. That she made this up, that they would never send this woman into a meeting with the top Al-Qaeda people or top people in the Taliban. At one point, she claims to meet with the head of the Taliban or Al-Qaeda, who the hell knows which one it is, and he's holding his own baby that has a problem breathing, and she bonds with him over having mutual babies and giving him clove oil for his baby's asthma, which is symbolic of what she thinks the CIA should be doing as their reason to exist, that they should humanely be bonding with terrorists. I swear to God, says this repeatedly throughout the book and numerous interviews that she's given since promoting the book. She is against any guns or any violence of the CIA. She wants it to be a kinder, softer, more humane CIA. It's one of her general things, right, Eric? In the book.
Yeah, the only thing she says more frequently is "my truth."
Oh yeah, my truth. Okay, she's woke. First of all, she's woke as fuck. When you go to her Instagram, feed, there is her worship of Black Lives Matter. The white parents having the talk with the white children about the black problems in the world. There it is. That's off her Instagram feed. Eric is just show you a couple of things. This is from her. This is who's running RFK's campaign and issuing policy statements every single day on Twitter, folks, which is how we got into this story. Black parents are so many generations, blah, blah, blah.
Well, she's got to quote her favorite. Here we go.
Oh, yeah, Kendi. She loves Kendi. She loves Kendi.
Kendi and Reynolds, dude. Got them both.
Yeah. Wow.
Let me see. Here's Kendi and Reynolds.
Yeah, look at that team, Batman and Robin. Holy crap. Anyway, she worships BLM. She's a Marxist. She's a socialist. She's anti-capitalist. I will later explain to you, I watched her entire Netflix series, The Business of Drugs, which is 7 parts long. She goes drug by drug. And this is something I'm well aware of as a drug counselor, former drug dealer, and somebody in recovery for many years. So a lot of the stuff that she was involved in just allowed her to go behind enemy lines. She ends up in the jungles of Colombia, right? She ends up in northern Burma, infiltrating the military up there about their little crystal meth pill that they have up there called yaba, which is part caffeine, part meth. And she just keeps asking people, how much do you sell that pill for? It's meaningless. It's meaningless. She asks them. It's almost like a background to the show. She will ask a black drug dealer in Philadelphia, she's showing him cutting the heroin, really bad heroin, with laxative and also with fentanyl. And it's shitty heroin, which is why they put the fentanyl in there. They step on the heroin nonstop. The heroin is beaten to death. They put in some laxative as a cut and then sprinkle some fentanyl on top. And she's asking them how much in each episode. She asks them, how much did you pay for this? How much did you get for that? None of that matters. It's a information gathering situation. And the constant theme is these people wouldn't be selling drugs and people wouldn't be doing drugs if everybody's income on the earth was raised. This is her solution to no, I swear to God, this is her solution to the war on drugs. And not only that, at the very end, I waited for 7 freaking episodes, 7 episodes of this shit until there's 10 minutes left in the final episode. And you know what she says? Finally, this is about capitalism. It must go. And as we're watching this whole series, I'm just going, she's going to say something about capitalism. And with 10 minutes left in the game, she denounces capitalism as a system at the end. This is who's running RFK's campaign. This is what you have to know. This is a harm reduction woman who wants to give free needles and everything else to addicts. And the reason I mention that, because now in California today, Newsom has announced, and this is a couple of weeks ago, has announced that the drug kit that the drug addicts get in California through the federal government now includes, of course, the meth pipe, which you're well aware of, the cottons, the cooker, the spoon, the glass pipe, the alcohol. This is all in the kit. This is all in the free kit given out by the NGOs of which she's a part of. That the kit now will include tinfoil and plastic straws that have been banned from California. Everyone's having a great no. Everyone is having a field day over the irony of banning plastic straws unless you're a homeless addict living on the streets, so they can inhale through the plastic straw and the tinfoil the fumes of heroin and meth. You can't make this up, people.
By the way, you were talking about her NGO time, right?
Yeah.
When I was just kind of glancing around, I thought it was very curious that in 2020, she had an estimated net worth, supposedly, now you never know on these sites, of $800,000, but had a salary of approximately $250,000 a year with NGO money. I'm going, that's some pretty good cash for an activist here.
Dude, that's why they do it. Now, when the book doesn't come out, before the book even comes out, it's optioned and purchased by Brie Larson, the Academy Award winner for Room, where she won the Academy Award a couple of years ago. Brie Larson is supposed to play Amaryllis Fox. Yeah, this is from Hollywood Reporter. That was in 2018. This thing is dead and buried, people. She's talking about it on a number of shows as if it's going to happen. It's never going to happen. I
got a better picture of Brie supporting this.
That's funny.
Well, because it matches the book. Yeah. If you really look at it, Amaryllis Fox in that book is a Mary Sue, the smartest, the best. Always finding where everybody fell up. Remember the honorifics early on?
I don't know about that, but the company that did the drug show is 0.0. Now you say, well, what company is that? That's the former company of Anthony Bourdain, who was a deep state chef who eventually hangs himself, meets with Obama in Vietnam, has dinner with him, huge drug guy, couldn't stop drinking and commits suicide by hanging himself. There's a lot of. I'm sorry I said that, but
we're trying.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, folks. I'm sorry. She then does a show. Well, there's violence in the shows. I don't know what to say.
I know. Yeah.
She does a show called The American Ripper for the History Channel. I watched every episode of The American Ripper. And The American Ripper, according to her, she finds the great grandson of Holmes, who is a guy in Chicago, not Sherlock Holmes, this cat named Holmes.
Yeah. H.H. Holmes.
H.H. Holmes, who had like a hotel of death there, an incredibly insane hotel
really bad dude. World's Fair killing dude in Chicago.
Don't say killing. Please don't say killing. I am on. Hold on. I am in Twitter prison right now because I said the word killing, Hunley. So please, I am still in Twitter prison for 6 more days because I said K them all. Not
something else. Yeah. We're not.
I didn't name anybody. I just said kill them all. Apparently you can't say that. Anyway, so she's using the Anthony Bourdain production company, 0.0. Okay. She wants to be a screenwriter. She wanted this book to be a movie. And she says her 2 biggest influences are Graham Greene, who's a novelist, and Stephen Gagin. Stephen Gagin wrote Traffic. He also wrote Syriana, if I'm correct. Stephen, is that Graham Greene?
Graham Greene, yeah.
Okay, he's a novelist. Okay, Graham Greene, that's one of her influences because this book is really a novel, which is going to get into why it's not cleared by the CIA. Here's Stephen Gagin. Let me tell you something about Stephen Gagin. This guy had a deal at Paramount, right? And he sat in his office for a year smoking crack, right? Why do I know that? Because he told me that. So so he smoked crack, and people would walk in while he was smoking crack. He did absolutely nothing. And then he copied the British version of a TV series in Britain called Traffic. And that became a movie. Oh, that's right. That's why I do what I do, Hunley. So he's smoking crack, and he sees the British series Traffic, converts it into a movie, and gets a number of awards, and then Syriana, whatever. She wants to be Stephen Gagin, and she wants to do that kind of work. So she now has this book optioned by Brie Larson, who says we're going to turn it into a movie, and blah, blah, blah. It didn't happen. But before that, when she went to Burma on that thing with that the leader of Burma, there was a book that was supposed to come out of that adventure in Burma. And that book did not come out. And the reason it did not come out is unbeknownst to me. But that event was supposed to generate another book by her about the BBC, about the BBC interview that she did. So that book was purchased. The book itself never came out, from what I understand. But the company was supposed to produce the film was a British company with ties to MI6. So the company itself, which was Gold Square or something Productions. This is just my ballywick. This is my peccadillo where I get into these companies. I just love this because this has happened throughout the deep state operations that Eric and I cover. Here's the different names for this company that was supposed to do the movie of her sneaking into Burma for the BBC. That was supposed to be a movie. It didn't happen. So, it was called In the Quiet Land, 2002. Nick Thomas was supposed to do the screenplay. I think Nick Thomas probably wrote the screenplay, but it was Golden Square Pictures. And you go, well, who's Golden Square Pictures, Mark? Okay, well, Golden Square Pictures apparently kept changing their name all the time. It used to be ID 3D Limited. That was in 2012. Then Pudsey Films Limited. Then Bonnie Films Limited. Then Brompton Pictures Limited. Then Seven Seas Films. Then Oxford Pictures Limited. Then Seven Seas Films Limited. Then Sony Pictures Britannia Limited. Then Seven Seas again. Then Fallow Grove Limited. These are all deep state MI6 production companies of England. They're having nothing to do with us. But this story, the reason I mention is because she was operating in both worlds initially. She was operating in the world of MI6 that wanted to make a movie about Thailand, about Burma, because that used to be one of their colonies. And now they got a hard on for the Burmese militia and military that's running that country. Okay, separate story. This book gets optioned by Brie Larson before it even comes out. How they knew about it is obvious. So the book comes out and people start complaining. Other CIA memoir people start complaining that her book. Right.
This was back then too. It was contemporary. This is not RFK stuff down. This is
no. Right.
articles.
Right. This has nothing to do with RFK. She marries, his son, but blah, blah, blah. So the book comes out and there's scuttlebutt that's not cleared by the CIA. So she lawyers up, and this is where the story takes a great turn, Eric. Right. Okay. So she lawyers up with a guy named Mark Zaid. Now I show a picture of this guy, Mark Zaid, because he's a very, very famous lawyer, deep state lawyer out of DC. He represents, this is Mark Zaid. Now, why do we know about Mark Zaid? Now, I'm gonna tell you why we know about Mark Zaid. Mark Zaid, that's the cat right there, right?
Yeah, this is a recent one and on point with what you're going to say.
Right. Okay. So Mark Zaid is a guy who cherry picks certain whistleblowers and represents them in court. And he cherry picked a guy as a whistleblower named Colonel Vindman. I don't know if anybody remembers Colonel Vindman. And Mark Zaid, begins the process to begin to get Trump impeached. He takes credit for this. He uncovers Vindman. He puts the phone call as part of the lawsuit and the whistleblower status of Colonel Vindman. And he brags that he himself, Zaid, was instrumental in the impeachment of Donald Trump. Donald Trump will later hold his photo up at rallies, calling him a sleazebag attorney. He hates Donald Trump going back to 2016, 2017, vows to get him impeached. And in fact, with Colonel Vindman, that was the famous phone call that Trump took with Zelensky on the phone, with Vindman listening in, the perfect call. There's Colonel Vindman, this douchebag. His lawyer is Mark Zaid. Now, Mark Zaid is the lawyer for Amaryllis Fox. Okay, you say, well, that's weird, but it gets weirder. How about a $1 billion, $2 billion settlement when Zaid was the lawyer for the Lockerbie bombing in Scotland, Hunley? That kills her friend, Laura Owens. The lawyer is Mark Zaid. What are the odds of that one?
Well done.
Well done. Touche, my friend. Touche. The plot thickens. Pan Am Flight 103, he got a settlement of $2.3 billion. Now, this dead Owens family didn't get it because they're all gone. They're all gone. And this may be where Amaryllis Fox learns that this story cannot be ever called on her because A, Zaid's the lawyer, and B, the entire Owens family has been killed. So there's no way to ever check if Laura was her best friend or where they went to school or whatever happens is uncheckable. A lot of the stuff in the book is uncheckable. There's no dates, there's no names, there's no places, there's no adventure, there's nothing. And I've got plenty of CIA books here that are redacted, that have different details of missions. There is a vetting process that you go through with the CIA. She apparently, this guy Zaid, claims that she went through it. There's no sign off by the CIA. There's no redactions. There's no nothing. Remember, I sent you that thing from Twitter the night that she got the book deal released. The CIA.gov went on Twitter and said the Fox doesn't speak. Only we know what the Fox. I don't know if you still have that.
I do. I have to pull it up now.
Okay. Well, I'll wait here.
Okay. So, we'll get back to you.
Right.
Smart ass.
I mean, no, it's a beautiful thing. I found that from 2000. I'm kind of proud of that. Anyway, if you do find it, if not, it's cool. So he gets this $2.7 billion settlement from the Lockerbie, Scotland bombing, and it's completely politicized. The bombing leads to a lot of terrorist blowback, and blah, blah, blah. But her whole thing about the drug war is very interesting because she, like many others, blames the 1971 war on drugs. July 1971, as Eric knows, when Richard Nixon declares war on drugs because it's out of control. Everybody cites the war on drugs. It's just some crazy thing. Everybody cites, the war on drugs is draconian. Millions of people are in jail because of the war on drugs. Okay. Let's just trace briefly the war on drugs because I watched the drug series and I know a lot about this. In 1971, as people do know, Nixon declared war on drugs. Okay. She claims that anything, the war on terror, the war on anything, it doesn't work. But the war on drugs, whether you think it's effective or not, that's an episode of another show where you could debate that. We don't have time for that here, but I just want to give you the bullet points of how we got to the war on drugs. The war on drugs in 1971, everybody goes, wow, it's been 50 years, the war on drugs. Okay. 6 years later, when the war on drugs is declared, a new president named Jimmy Carter says, I'm ending the war on drugs by decriminalizing marijuana for people. That's 6 years. That's how long it lasted until Jimmy Carter got in there. Then in 1981, the drug starts going crazy again. So, Nancy Reagan come up with the Just Say No, and DARE is created as a drug program, anti-drug program for kids. And you got Mr. T sitting on Nancy's lap, or vice versa, whatever the hell that was about. So you begin to get an abstinence program that takes hold in the Reagan administration. Okay, then what happens after 1981? In 1994, there's a coke snorting situation, and they create something, a guy named Ethan Nadelman creates something called the Drug Policy Alliance. You say, what's the Drug Policy Alliance, Mark? It was part of the Linda Smith Center that Nadelman created. And it is the first, Eric, U.S. project by a guy who ran the Open Society named George Soros. This is the first time George Soros puts money into U.S. policy, and it's through the liberalization and legalization of drugs. And look where we are now, giving out these needles, giving out these syringes, giving out this tinfoil, the homeless, and they want to break the back of capitalism, as many of these people said about homelessness, oh, here it is. This is great. What does that say? I can't read that. Can you just read that?
What does the Fox say? Ours doesn't talk. When you're CIA, Fox, you're part of the silent service.
Right. Now, the reason that's important is this came out the night she got the book deal. A friend of mine was with her at that party and said she was screaming on the phone at somebody who was a publisher, or it may not have been the publisher. I'm not really sure what was going on there. But this, as many people said about O&I, once O&I, always O&I, Eric knows that once you're CIA, you're always CIA. It's not like they can't call you up and say, can you tell us what happened when you went to Bangkok, honey? You know what I mean? Eric and I have seen that these people do not, she may be resigned from the CIA for 10 years, but she still knows tons of people in the CIA. And she is loyal to them as all hell, because she believes this is a women's organization, not like any other. But just to get back to the Soros thing, in 1994, George Soros funds, through his Open Society Foundation, the Drug Policy Alliance in 1994. That leads to 2020 in Oregon, where they decriminalize all the drugs in Oregon, Eric. That's where we are, 2020 with Oregon. And the shit show that's going on up there in Portland is because of George Soros and this decriminalization of legalization. Decriminalization is not the right word. So in the show, this is where I was going with this, in the drug show at the end, she says, quote, millions of people in prison are sitting in prison right now. Millions of people. This is just, I'm sitting there going, okay, what's this quote? Millions of people are sitting in prison right now. Most of them are men of color for selling and growing the same plant others are making millions off now. Okay. And I thought, that's a weird quote. So I said, millions of people are sitting in prison right now for selling and growing marijuana. This is what she alleges in the documentary. So I look it up and I find out that there's 2 million people in the American prisons total, 2 million. 81,000 are in prison in the federal prison system for trafficking, 81,000. 22,000 are in the state prison for trafficking, 99% of them for trafficking. Not millions, it's 100,000. And there's a big difference between saying millions of people are in prison for drug trafficking when it's really 81 and 22. Those are the actual numbers. I just want to get the facts out there. So for possession, she talks about guys sitting in prison for possession. 2017, this is from the Washington Post, 92 people are in federal prison for possession. 92 in a country of 360 million people. This is one of the biggest crocs of shit that goes out there from the drug legalization people all the time. And it's
also, there's a reason for those 92 as well. most of those, if not all, were plead down.
Oh yeah.
They were just traffickers, and that's what they pleaded to.
I'm just saying the number 92, and compared to her millions. This is why she does these shows. They're not for shows like, that's why Vice exists, to do shows like this, because underneath, if you listen carefully, you will find the political message in these shows. For all their shock and awe and all the different drug things that she's making jokes about and meeting with people, taking her baby to Colombia and all this other crap. We figured out that 35% of the show are just beauty shots of her head. Just straight on shots of her head. In various episodes, she's got 3 different hair colors. In the individual episode itself. Not, in multiple episodes, they're all beautiful. This is her. Look at her. Look at that Punim, how happy she is. Look at that. She's in Colombia fighting for the whatever the hell she's doing. Okay, so she does the Jack the Ripper thing. She goes to England, and she's tracing Jack the Ripper in England to compare him to the American Ripper. That's the History Channel one. The drug
and that
one.
Was before her book even came out. That was 2017.
Yes.
So she's got connections.
Right. I'm going to tell you the connections. Okay. Go back to that photo of her stepdad.
Oh, Daddy, Stephen. Hold on.
All right, Stephen Rails.
I've got another picture of him to show you too.
Okay, Stephen Rails owns a company called, first of all, Stephen Rails, who her mother married, is one of the wealthiest men on the earth. You've never heard of him. He's worth $7.9 billion. That's her stepfather. And that's why Kennedy was over the moon when his son married when his daughter-in-law married this guy. 6.9 billion. I've heard of it. There's the other brother, right? That's the other.
Right. Between the two of them, both billionaires.
Okay. So Stephen Rails, the guy on the left, has a company called Indian Paintbrush. And apparently they fund films. This is what he does. One of the guys he does, looks like the only guy he ever funds films for, is Wes Anderson, the filmmaker, Grand Budapest Hotel and other films. He apparently is the entire funding operation for Wes Anderson, and the films never make any money. These films lose money every single time. He's got wonderful art direction. He's had Bill Murray in a lot of these films. He's had George Clooney in a bunch of these films. They never seem to make any money. Owen Wilson's in these films. For some reason, this guy, Stephen Rails, funds Wes Anderson's. That's him on the right. That's her mother on the left. Of course, she's happy. She just nailed the one of the wealthiest men in America, who started as a tool and die company making pliers and machinery parts. Okay, that's where this guy comes from. So he makes these films, and one of the films he makes, and this is Hunley's going to love this, is an animated stop motion film called The Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Oh.
He makes a film. This is Wes Anderson, and it's all about a deep state guy who is the father Fox of the movie named George Clooney. And I recommend that for my film pick of the week, The Fantastic Mr. Fox. But you see how deep this shit goes, people. I'm just giving you the tip of the iceberg stuff. There's much more to this, but the point of the matter is she's now so deeply embedded in the RFK campaign, because when she married the guy, she's then in the family. She then gets to see all the secret documents of the Kennedy people and everything else that she had access to since she married him, right, Eric? I mean, it's not like she married him the other day. Who's that? Is that Clinton's daughter?
Yeah, Chelsea, her friend.
Yeah, right, her friend Chelsea. Yeah.
I mean, I just
you can't make this up. This is just too much. So, okay, so Dig, so where are we now? This woman replaces the campaign manager of the RFK campaign. She replaces him. And he's out. Dennis Kucinich is out. And what does this woman want to do? Well, a campaign manager usually ends up with a cabinet level position historically, if a guy ever wins the presidency. Now, he may not win it this time, but he may come back next time and become president. Who knows? I don't know if he wants her to be the head of the CIA or what he wants her to be. But this chick is so deeply deep state as to be bizarre, because what I found the most bizarre about the story is the fact that RFK Jr. correctly says the CIA killed my father and my uncle. and he hires a woman to be the head of his campaign who's CIA. Now, that's what got me started on this whole episode. That insanity cannot be explained, nor has he addressed it publicly. And this will not go away until he explains it, gets rid of her, or says she's a good CIA person, or whatever crazy crap he wants to come up with. It's insane. It's insane. She has dozens and dozens of CIA friends. He's claiming publicly the CIA killed his father. The CIA killed his uncle. Okay, that's a little, I believe that too. But to hire the CIA to run your campaign, oh, to quote Andrew Dice Clay, oh, so she now is issuing. Now, okay, so what does a campaign manager do? Did you see any policy statements, Eric, that you can recall from Dennis Kucinich?
No.
Okay. The campaign manager does not issue policy statements. Why do I know? My grandfather was the campaign manager to the mayor of New York. Never issued a policy statement in his life. What did he do? He arranged press conferences. You arrange hotels, flights, bookings, time on TV, meet the press, whatever you got to do. That's what a campaign manager does. She, on the other hand, is engaging on Twitter with long ass artificial intelligence type responses to questions on Twitter that are deep, deep policy questions that are now, and you could scroll through the feed, people. Don't take my word for it. That's
a standard. That's a short tweet.
That's a short tweet where she either she's got a think tank of CIA people at Langley issuing these things in real time, or she's the most brilliant meth writer of all time to be able to write like this at supersonic speed.
She even replies to people like Yusuf Ibrahim here, who is he? Not that big of an account, small account, but she took the opportunity to say that about Kucinich, the campaign gratefully asked him to step aside.
Which is what I said 3 weeks ago, which is when it first happened. I said that he was fired, and I stand by that. And there's the answer right there. Anyway, so she's issuing policy statements so fast that I can't imagine that RFK Jr. Who's that? Is that the guy?
No, he said GPT. It's a hint. It's like, yeah,
right. That's what right. That's what. Thank you. I kind of said that to Eric the other day. That's what I think is happening in real time, and because she couldn't write this fast enough, coherently enough to make any sense. And there's two parts to the problem. One is RFK on board with all this crazy crap? You're talking about a BLM activist here now has another NGO called Operation Zoe, named after her daughter, where she takes Iraq war veterans from the United States back to Iraq to serve food to the people that they attacked. I'm going like, holy crap.
Serve food.
What kind of food?
Serve food. Yes.
Right.
I know that's not intelligence at all. No way. No.
So she's got Operation Zoe, and she's now got I don't know what happened to her other husband, Fox. But as I pointed out to Eric last week, her Wikipedia page changed from Amaryllis Fox to Amaryllis Fox Kennedy. Now she's been married for 5 years and she didn't change it, but last week she did. And I have both copies of the Wikipedia, which I'll get into at another time. There's slight differences in the Wikipedia. I predict that Fox as a name is going to disappear, and she will become at some point Amaryllis Kennedy. That's my prediction. So she could just be Mrs. Kennedy. That's where this is going, folks. And she still wants to be in the movie business and get these things made. The deal was with Apple TV. It's never going to happen. Like I said, with Brie Larson, there's no there in the book. The reason, getting back to the vetting process by the CIA, is a CIA. Keep in mind, I'm in a book. I don't know what happened to this book, but this is the Amaryllis Fox book. But I am in a book written by Tricia Jenkins that I really recommend, called The CIA in Hollywood. There's a whole chapter about my case in federal court. The reality of it is that these books are vetted by the CIA, and they each have to be vetted for one particular reason. If they skip a book, the next agent can cite the fact that that book was not vetted for his own case. In other words, by skipping any book, they're now setting a precedent that all books do not have to be vetted, only certain books. because they didn't vet the Snowden
I can
book.
confirm that, by the way. Not just the FBI, but also not just CIA, but also FBI. I've interviewed both.
Okay, so anyway, so they sued Snowden in court to get the money back from his book. They've successfully sued and seized money from other CIA memoir writers. Those are the ones they didn't like. But even the ones they do like, they still have to be vetted because of the legal chain of vetting all of them when they go to court. This is their standard procedure, Eric. So they apparently, there's some vague situation now where we don't know if this book was vetted by the CIA. There's nothing said by them. There's nothing in writing. Zaid was brought in. This guy, Mark Zaid, this creepy attorney, says that it was vetted. She claims that there's nothing actionable in the book, that she's changed the name of everything and she's changed the name of the events. And there's nothing in there. I would agree with that. There is nothing.
I was going to say, maybe it's like that. Like, remember Norm Macdonald's famous book, based on a true story, that when everything, where he started with like, I was born, and it just became completely ludicrous.
Right. Well, this is more like Judith Vary Baker getting to the Trine Day publication of her book, which started out as a novel and then became a nonfiction book. Judith Vary Baker also it's the same style where they link the protagonist of the book to actual known events that are rather known by the American public. She claims to have known and been close to Daniel Pearl. Daniel Pearl was in Karachi. Right. It's really gutless. It really is gutless. And he gets beheaded. The last words he said were, "I am a Jew." And Daniel Pearl is a hero to a lot of American Jews because of what happened. She has no connection to Daniel Pearl. She claims to be a journalist. There's nothing in writing that she's ever done as a journalist. She claims to have been a baby journalist. I'm not sure what that means. I don't know. I
couldn't find anything about her CIA or CNN work, because she talked a lot about everything she was doing at CNN. I was like, well, that's not long. So I looked up every name that she came up with, and there are many. She's known as Amaryllis Damerol Thornburg, that's her birth name, and she's also Amaryllis Hope Fox, Amaryllis Damerol Thornburg again, Amaryllis Kennedy, Amaryllis Hope Kennedy. Couldn't find anything in any name.
No, because it doesn't exist. But the thing with Pearl makes it personal to me. Not that I knew Daniel Pearl, but what he represented to American Jews. He was killed because he was a Jew. They tried to smear him that he was CIA. And it's not true, because he worked for the he worked for the Wall Street Journal, and he was not CIA. This was an attempt to smear him afterwards. He was killed because he was a Jew. That's what his last words were: "I am a Jew." And it infuriated me to no end that she was hinting that he was CIA, and that's how she knew him. And she dances around it in the book. It's really despicable. But anyway, the point of the matter is the book has no there. There's no dates. There's plenty of these memoirs. I just read off some of the memoirs that were written by women just in the past 2 or 3 years. They just can't keep cranking these things out. And I sent Eric these commercials that are so crazy. They're all by women joining the CIA and why you should join if you're a woman. And this is what these books are. They're promotional devices to get you to join Central Intelligence Agency. And they have, like they've done with the military, where they've transed them. The transing of the American military, I don't know if that's a verb, but I just made it up. The transing of the American military, the weakening of the American military, they've done the same thing with CIA by feminizing it with feminine liberal women, where I believe it is now completely inadequate to serve the purposes of an American president overseas, which may be the purpose of the feminization and the liberalization of the CIA. They have missed every world event going back, even when men were dominating in it, but nevertheless, this thing now, I mean, whether they saw the attack by Hamas happening in Israel, or they're so busy, going to these different Starbucks events. I mean, her technique, her tradecraft is so ludicrous. I'll just give you two of them. She says that her technique was to get a Starbucks gift card for someone, and when they used it, then she could meet with them. This was like a Starbucks gift card. The second part was, if she wanted to contact a contact, she would send the contact her email address and her password, write a draft, and the guy would then be directed to look at the draft of the email she never sent, so you could see the email in the draft. Like that's
that's old school. That's old school. it is done. That is an old school.
Right, but I'm saying she's now given the email address and the password. How does he get that? How does he get the email address and the password to the email you sent? You can't send it in the drafts. You got to say, okay, so the thing's preposterous. It's just preposterous. And these are the only two ways that she explains tradecraft that she did in the book. There's no things that I've read that are of interest to me. And I, at that time and later, was working on a pretty in-depth screenplay about the CIA for Hollywood, which later turned out to be rewritten by Langley. But that's a story for another.
Well, she has the masterful method of leaving her stuff next to somebody and going to the bathroom and asking him to watch over it.
It's absurd. The whole thing's absurd. The point of the matter is, I don't know what she did or what if she did anything, or she's in Shanghai for 6 years. What is she doing? There's no explanation of the art history or art dealer operation. In other words, if my cover was as an art dealer, right? Okay, my husband's an art dealer. It's his cover. You would write a scene in the book. We were selling art to Ching Fong Wat, and we realized that Wat worked for KCIA, and there's some story. None of that exists. There's no story of selling a painting. There's no story of buying a painting. There's no story of paintings. She simply says, my family has a long history of art. What we're dealing here is elites, world elites that have now taken over the intelligence services, which was the whole point of doing this episode. We now have a situation where these World Economic Forum people, which is what she is, she's a one-worlder, no borders, BLM worshiping Marxist who wants capitalism to end and everyone to make enough money so they could buy legal drugs. She goes into a weed store to buy drugs in Colorado, and she says, I couldn't do this when I was in CIA, but I can now. And she's smelling all the different weeds, going crazy. She says, I'm like a kid in the candy store, right? She just gets all the different weeds, and she interviews a black couple in Colorado who own a dispensary. And the whole thing is like the BLM is running this dispensary. And the black woman is lecturing her on slavery and why she's running a dispensary. Totally insane. And then she goes up to Humboldt County and some growing and some other stuff. The point of the matter is they have their fingers in a lot of pies. And as Eric and I pointed out in the CIA and the art world, you will see, hear, and feel echoes of what she was doing, as Robert Fitzpatrick did when he became director of the Chicago Art Institute while working for the CIA, and others that have gone into the art world that we discussed in that episode, Eric.
Yep. And other episodes, because she's got some Hollywood crossover too.
She's got fingers in every pie, but now she's got a big finger in the Kennedy pie, which is why we wanted to do the episode. I don't know where this is going to go. I mean, the damage to RFK Jr.'s persona as a populist is so damaging to him that the only way he could ever deal with this is to fire her ass as soon as possible and just say, I made a huge mistake. This is my daughter-in-law. I can't, even if he just says, I can't have the perception, Eric, of CIA running my campaign. I'm sorry, Amaryllis, you've got to go. He's not even acknowledging that the CIA, it's really dark, bro. It's really dark.
No, he just announces it late on Fridays on, the slowest news point possible.
What a time to make a news dump, about her being the campaign manager. Now, keep in mind, she's never run a campaign in her life. I would even say it would be doable if she had run some campaigns. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Her husband made a movie about Hunter Thompson running for sheriff in Colorado.
So she was in it, apparently.
Yeah, I think she's in the movie. Is she in the movie?
I think she has a credit for it. So yeah.
Okay, so he made a movie, but it's only the second movie or third documentary about Hunter Thompson running for sheriff in Colorado. I don't know why he did it, other than maybe she wanted to learn how to be a campaign manager.
There you go, on the job training.
Yeah, on the job training with Hunter Thompson. But nevertheless, this is a big issue because Rich Barris and I assume Eric and others, believe that this spoiler candidacy is designed to hand the election to Biden. And with all the different polling that Rich has done, one of the things he comes up with is that RFK pulls votes from Trump in states where it matters. And that is what we're getting at. And she is organizing a volunteer campaign to train people on how to get ballot signatures, Eric, for free. And this could go from $1 to $5 a signature in the real world. She is now part of a training operation that is going to bring in volunteers to show them videos on how to get him on the ballot in various states. I predict the states that he will get on the ballot are the ones that are battleground states, Eric.
Well, I do know that so far of the ones listed, I think there were like 10 and 6 were red states.
Right.
Wonder why. Obviously, it's to hurt Biden, right?
Well, it's her relationship to Mark Zaid, who is the guy who started the impeachment against Trump, is so troubling and so disturbing. This guy is such a weasel that's her attorney. I was staggered by that. That of all the people in this country, for her to have a representative, the guy who tried to take down Trump with the impeachment, shows you where this is going. This is why I wanted to do this episode. There's a bunch of factoids that I've uncovered that made my head spin, and that's one of them. This is Vindman's attorney, people, if you remember Colonel Vindman. So, look, I mean, this is really, really damaging to the persona, in my humble opinion, of RFK Jr.
Agree.
Yeah.
And we'll leave it to everybody here, and I'm sure we're going to be hearing in the comments. I see in the chat that there's some people that are RFK all the way. Okay,
good.
We'll see. You know.
Okay, all right.
What have you?
Right.
Got some super chats in though. Ross is giving us congratulations on 100K. Thank you, Ross.
Frank Howard. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Mark, Frank Howard, 2023. How do you rate him as Army boy? It's interesting. I mean, it was Chuck Connors, the rifleman, was on that team too, by the way, who played third base. Who later would go on to play the rifleman. He was kind of like a Dave Kingman, Frank Howard, a big giant guy. When he connected, the ball went out or he struck out. Rest in peace, Frank Howard. Big guy. Played the game here in LA the right way, I think.
All right. Scott Benbow, new member. Thank you. Or Benbow. Helen Olegenik, I guess. Happy Halloween. Happy Halloween to you.
Happy Halloween.
Al Gonzalez, this is more of a Friday subject. If the Arab armies march on Israel in the near future, will we be sending in our ground troops?
I doubt it. I don't think so.
They have an army.
They have an army that's very large compared to who they're fighting. You know what I mean? They're not. They outnumber them 10 to 1. I think the Israeli. Yeah.
And they've got the equipment.
Yeah.
Raleigh Mal, Australia. Thank you.
Of course, I'm banned from Twitter, so I can't say. But
for Pasha, it's a great diversion topic. Thanks for the ride. Question of clarification: if she's CIA, is it even possible to be in an NGO? Asking for a friend.
Well, I don't know. I mean, she's not CIA technically anymore. I mean, she served for 8 years for when she was 22 to 31-ish. I mean, she's 40. Yeah. She's 44 now. I mean, of course she can be in an NGO. All those people are in NGOs. That's why NGOs exist. I mean, that's
his thing. I think that's what he's saying.
Yeah.
Another 10 from Helen.
She thought it over. She says, you know what? That was a good answer. I'm going to throw down another $10.
No, not only that. She threw down yet another.
Oh, she goes again. This is when she gets crazy. This is why I love Helena, because once she doubles down, nothing could stop her from throwing tens onto the table. I love this broad. And I think she's from Scandinavia or something.
It could be, but it looks like it's Canadian.
Oh, okay.
For the currency. Pierce Lord Phillips. She sounds like a female version of Zelig.
Not real. I mean, they give her this disguise kit, and she talks about everything's
complained about it. Yeah.
She complained the shit out of this disguise kit, how bad it was. She never attempts to disguise herself as anything. You know, she's just a chick who's at the bar. It's hard for me to even critique it because nothing ever happens in the book. She keeps saying, I'm saving the world from my children from being destroyed by a dirty nuclear bomb. I go, okay, where? Where did this happen? When? I mean, I can't tell you. Okay, great. It's the greatest book of all time.
Whatever. It works, but I think it's cool. We've got given folks something to consider, and
well, I think they should consider coming to Dallas, where we're going to talk about the CIA when we get down there, and the involvement in the Kennedy assassination, November 18th, 17th, in there.
Yep, and I think the physical event's sold out. There's still info in the descriptions for anybody who wants to do it. You can always get a virtual ticket if if there are no physical, and I don't think there are any physical.
I think the virtual ticket's probably safer after I flew back from West Palm Beach. I think I'm doing everything virtually from now on. I'm never leaving my place. I mean, it's just such a shit show out there. I highly recommend virtual ticketing for these types of events. You could download it, give it as a gift for Christmas, Thanksgiving. I'm serious, folks. I mean, it's a great, great idea to get a virtual ticket for this event. It'll blow your mind, because there's going to be experts on every single subject related to the 60th anniversary of the Kennedy assassination, and it's stuff that I'm looking forward to myself. This is Hall of Fame level material that you're not going to be able to get, that I can't get. I mean, these guys are experts, and not all of them have books. Some of them have just been doing research for decades, and are known for that particular research. So I'm looking forward to going down there.
Yeah, well, Larry agrees with you. He says, drive everywhere.
I'm driving everywhere. I don't care where it is. I'll drive to Egypt if I have to go to Egypt. I'm not, unless there's water in between, I'm going to try to get on a ferry with a car, one of those car ferries. I once drove on the auto train. They put my car on the auto train. Apparently, they don't go back to New York. They take you in your car and they kick it off in D.C., and then you got to drive. I didn't know that when I was on the auto train with my car. But yeah, I went from, I think, Miami. I thought it was going to go to New York, but it got to D.C. and they said that's as far as we go.
They just got tired. They're like, we can't carry this car anymore. We got to offload it.
Yeah, I thought also that you sat in your car, that you do things in your car, but you can't because it's up on a thing. You got to stay inside the train and spend money to survive in the train.
Yeah. All right. So I look forward to hearing back from people. We may be discussing this a little bit more on Friday. I'm curious to see how people respond to the story.
It's a crazy story, bro.
It is, and nobody's covering it.
Nobody's covering it. And I've got more stuff. I didn't show my whole hand because I want them to respond to this, because I got more ammunition. I mean, there's more to this story than I've revealed today. That's all I could say.
All right. Well, Rosalind, too. Got my tickets for Dallas. Doing my first live next week about Ruby trial and my dad's testimony for the defense. Would love to have you.
Have me where? At the Ruby trial or what?
Yeah, that's interesting. Go to ericunley.com/contact and just send an email on whatever you're talking about.
Yeah, send it to Hunley.
We'll definitely look at it. Now we're going to move on. See Gittins.
I like that. This woman's great, by the way. She's a longtime follower.
Yeah, with a cool cat.
Got the cat ears, and
I agree. The Mark, the research is absolutely phenomenal. She loves and respects us both. Oswald has come in. But folks, if you want a little bit more, we're going to head over to Locals.
Oh, this is good. The show goes on.
That's right.
Are they going to have questions over there, Eric?
I think they probably have questions there already.
That's good. That's good.
So we're going to roll this out. There is a link in the pinned chat. There's a link in the descriptions on Rumble, on YouTube, whatever. Come on over. This is the last day for a month free with our code for a birthday because we turned 2 years old. We're giving away a month free for anybody who wants to join, get full benefits of everything. And I hope to see you guys over in Locals.
Come on over to Locals
right now.
Right.